So today I want to speak about the Grandmaster spiritual gift, which is basically in the whole circumference about us developing ourselves along the spiritual journey without being tied into one particular spiritual craft, but being your true authentic self. I'll see you after this. So welcome back. My name is Matt from Karnak Holistics, where we learn together and we grow together in the sight of God. So today I want to speak about the Grandmaster of spiritual craft. So what does that entail? Let me just divide those little labels up. And remember, take on the word when I talk about labels, because that is a part of this talk today. So let's look at Grandmaster, spiritual, and craft. So the Grandmaster is you being a Grandmaster, you being really being really kind of authentic with yourself, you being able to reach the plateau or the level of where you're well respected and people come to you kind of like a shaman. And people look to you, and you also challenge yourself to develop and become a better person, or being able to grow. Because obviously the saying is that most grandmasters would say, of any kind of craft would say, if they can't do the work, why are they getting other people to do the work, or kind of guiding them to do work? Because that is the plateau about what grandmaster is. Now, Spiritual is being you. We are all spiritual beings living a human existence. So we need to turn around, and which I can really understand why people find it such a struggle. We all have a spirit. We all are being born. We're born and we die, and in between birth and death, there's this beginning, this in between. Don't understand why it's so complicated, why humans make it so complicated, that while you're living or you're existing, it's about you tapping into, find out what you are about. That is looking the essence of spirituality, spirit, us, the inside, what makes us tick, get into the crux of it all. And craft, what does craft mean? Craft is learning an ability, perfecting an ability, using the ability, calling on the ability. So if I put them all together, a Grandmaster who is knowledgeable, reach his level of, or her level of their practice, and their spiritual rivers within themselves to develop and inspire them, not just themselves, the people around them, for people to come and see them, to find what they're about, not being afraid to tap into their own self and using their own reflections in a positive way, not negatively, in order to help somebody else or themselves to progress forward. And craft is using the ability they have and developing it in order to be on another plateau or another level. Because, so, reason I want to say this, and normally I have a board just behind my camera with kind of like points I want to cover. Today, I'm just winging it, and I'm just going with what spirit wants to give me, or what a collective has given me. And the inspiration from for doing this was to look at what is a Grandmaster, and what is a Grandmaster, and what is someone who is spiritual. So we look at, you could say a Grandmaster is a shaman. Now, most shamans don't necessarily tap into one particular craft. They may have a series of craft, but one baseline, like a foundation, but they have several layers of knowledge in different crafts. So why am I kind of bringing all this up? I'm bringing all this up because I've noticed over a period of time that there has been people trying to kind of label themselves certain things, and it's really quite interesting, because when I do see it, whether I speak to different people, or I go to different places, or I either see stuff on YouTube or wherever, and people giving themselves labels, that's fine if that's what you're comfortable in, but be authentic with it. If you're going to be a spiritual advisor, if you're going to be a witch or wizard or or shaman or a tarot reader or a healer or clairvoyant medium. Now, I went along the title of a clairvoyant medium specifically because I combine them both, because when I do readings, I tap into spirit. So clairvoyancy obviously is focused upon vision of seeing the future, and also prediction, and having a clear sight into the future and into the present and into the past. Medium is someone who can talk to spirit. So when I was in my work, whether I was doing tarot or when I was working for someone one-to-one, I will say I'm a clairvoyant medium. So I see, predict, have a foresight, and also tap into another realm, which is the world of spirit, or for those loved ones who's moved on. Some people just go under the label of mediumship, and that's where they want to just sit. That's fine. That's not a problem. Some people say they're just clairvoyant or psychic. For me, as I've been developing and as I've been collecting, I should say, different ascended masters who sit with me in a collective, I'm really quite poignant about what my label is. Now, I've come across being a shaman, to therapist, to transformational coach, all these things. And a lot of it is how people can identify you. So you may have heard me in the past, especially in some of my past videos, me referring to myself as a transformational coach. Now, that's a very corporate, accepting way of saying I could work with spirit to help transform somebody through their journey, and seeing foresight to see beyond their light or their foresight that they can't see. That's what a transformational person does do. But that limited me. That limited me to what I truly was, and me being authentically open and honest with what I do and who I am and what I've become and what I'm becoming. Because my journey as a Grandmaster of a spiritual craft is for the fact is that I can tap into different energies of different crafts and work with somebody. It doesn't mean that you're totally understand everything about it, but you have made enough knowledge about, you have known enough knowledge about that craft in order to be able to honestly and openly, with wholeheartedness, be able to talk to somebody using that gift. Now, sometimes when I'm working with people, I work with people and I may pull out a couple cards. I may do healing, Reiki, I may do tarot, I may do oracle card readings, I may use ruins. I've even used bones to cast to see what is actually due to come for that particular person. And as I opened up and I began to develop and really being kind of conscious about who I am and what I'm about, it's opened up a state of Pandora boxes for me. There's been lots of series of boxes for me to look into. And authentically looking at what I am and who I am. But as I open the layers, just like an onion really, as I open the layers and I dig deeper, the story unfolds and I become more authentic for myself. So therefore I can be authentic with other people and with people like yourself. And obviously this causes a bit of drama and also unsureties with people around me sometimes. That they say, obviously you're not very clear about what you're selling. Now, I'm not selling anything, it's not bring and buy, I'm who I am. I am in this zone. So if someone comes to me and says, look, I need help, and the first thing I always start with, what seems to be the problem, kind of thing. And then from the dialogue, it all unfolds. And I know from there that person may need a reading, they may need healing, they may need spell work done, they may need distant healing, they may need to have tarot. It ranges. It may be that the whole journey while working with that person, as it unfolds, as I'm working with that person, it could shift from week to week or month to month. It depends on what it is. So if the person comes sees me once or twice, it could be that I'm doing one thing 1 minute and then changing it to do something else. But the problem comes when the person that comes to that person with the craft and is when that client is speaking to that person, and the person who is kind of there, what I call hired to do the work, limits themselves to just do tarot, which causes a lot of conundrum and confusion because it limits them on a ceiling that they can't see above the box. It's like me staying within these walls of this screen when obviously my arms go off and it's more broader. We limit ourselves by our limitations of our own consciousness and our own understanding of our own self. And if we don't do the shadow work, we limit ourselves to remaining in this box we call our craft. This small box we call a craft, no matter what it is. And if we don't open it, and if we don't open those Pandora boxes, we will find ourselves running out of steam and becoming ill, and in some ways misguided and lost. And as we begin to develop and try to understand what our own existence is, because that's what it is, we have to learn what our own journey is on this planet, our own individual person, whether I'm a healer, whether I'm this person who is spiritual and working with different people. That is my journey. I need to understand who I am here and in here. And the more I unfold and unwrap that Pandora box and the onion that is me, the stronger I become closer to the source, and the stronger my abilities are in order to really help that person deeper than if I was to just stay within that box of that particular craft. Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to stay within that box, that's totally down to you. We all have our own journeys and people can stay there. But what my challenge is people, it's not the people who say they just want to remain tarot readers or healers. It's the people that have multiple names and if that they feel comfortable having all these different tags, so to speak. But by and largely, you have a craft, and your craft is multiple tags. So when I've done websites in the past, I've done my work and I've done YouTube channels, I always say I'm a spiritual, say, advisor, I'm a shaman, and I have my abilities, so to call, along the bottom on the website or wherever it's going to be. But I think within those, it's rare that I get people saying to me, what are you? What do you do? What is it that you do? Most people will come to me and they really know what they want. But then as they sit with me, I know again, you actually don't need a reading. I feel you need this. And 9 out of 10 of the times they go, okay, I'm trusting in you to follow through. So good, you're the expert. So I feel over time you would learn to grow this, and it's something which was quite interesting, which I had a conversation with my oldest son Jordan about his development. And when he said to me that he's been fighting with this whole conflict about being spiritual, doing this for years, and I've heard this many times with people before. My simple thing was there's no real conflict, because this is you. This is what you are born as. You are spiritual. Whether you go and do the craft, that's a different conversation. But if you're trying to see if you want to live a spiritual life, you're already living a spiritual life because you're living here. And this is where people get confused. So you being on this planet, and I remember him telling me this, and I said to him, well, so you confused who you are? And he said, no, I know who I am. So, but you just said that you're confused about your spiritual journey. And he goes, yeah, about if I should do this or not. That's different. Your journey is different. What craft you're going to follow, what craft it is you want to develop, what craft you want to be known as. That's different than if you're spiritual. And living a spiritual life, you're living it. And I think we all need to take away the spiritual and the real. And because you are, and I have to emphasize this, you are spiritual. Whether you believe in spirit or not, you are spiritual. We all have souls. Whether you believe in it or not, you do go somewhere. Again, this is my personal beliefs. So when I'm talking to somebody and they have this conversation with me, I'm having a conversation concerning about what my beliefs are. Because again, if many people have known me, is that I don't necessarily believe something until I've experienced it and seen it for myself. So if I'm getting someone who comes to me and they don't know New Jack City, they don't know fuck all, and they come say to me, oh, well, I don't believe in what you believe. And because I go, well, what is your beliefs based upon? Oh, because I've never experienced it. Well, that's a bit stupid, isn't it? I can't believe. Do you know that your parents are your parents? How do you know? Well, they are. I look like them. No. How do you know? Because I've got a birth certificate. Well, I'm sorry, that's a bit of paper. How do you know who you are? How do you know they're your parents? How do you know they're your siblings and you wasn't mashed together and brought up in this lie, which is called truth? So at the end of the day, I really had to I myself had to unpick, unlearn about me, and I had to kind of like even really look at my relationship, my parents, and not what my learned things are, my behavior, as in if I can pick it up through behavior. So if someone's acting in a certain way, there's a saying, if someone's acting in a certain way, you will mimic that because it's called impression. You get in the impression. I try to strip that away. And what I try to do is strip away that and try to look at what it is that my parents physically and bloodline didn't like. So my likes and dislikes was a part of them in me. Like, for example, Brandy. My mum adores Brandy. And I'm a lot more like my mum spiritually or more inside here than my dad. And when I tasted Brandy, I just knew that it was my go-to drink. I didn't like any other drink, and I'm just using that as an example because my mum always used to have a brandy before she went to sleep. It's a Caribbean thing. She also would think a certain way. And so that's interesting. And also, as I say that, when you learn to think a certain way, do we as children look at our parents and how they react to stuff? That's a part of behavior. So what I learned over a period of time is when I look in the mirror, I can see a massive elements of my mum, especially this part here, massive elements of my dad, which would be my eyes, and massive elements of my dad, which are my lips, and the frown as well. And all these things, they are blood driven. That is kind of like when you mash things together. Reason I'm talking about this through spirituality and us taking on these, I suppose, called beliefs and following things through. Don't always straight away believe that something's right because somebody else is telling you it is right. I honestly believe you should really experience it and really find whether that person or that thing is right for you, or if you are, if it's your journey to walk down, and if it's going to be there for a season. So, and again, going back to the whole unpicking, then I had to learn about my siblings, whether we were the same and how we are. We look a lot alike. So about behavior, I behaved a lot like them because obviously I'm the youngest, so of course I'm going to be impressionable. I would follow things they would do. But I realized as I spent time away from them and do my own thing, I realized that I took on my own mannerisms. And it's like, I see with my children, you used to see my kids, especially Jordan, he's very similar looking to me, very similar. Josh has my eyes and has other bits and parts, but he also has that willpower. There's a authentic power which comes within my bloodline, which there's this resilience that to stand alone no matter what. And that can't be taught. That's something we never seen, or I never seen growing up, because my parents was always united in no matter what they did do. Whether they have different views on stuff, it was always an instinct I've had. That is through birthline for me, in my mind. And you can see that happening in families as it goes down. So as you grow your craft and you're learning and you're growing, all this stuff I've been talking about is about the craft. So if you're going to be a tarot reader, you don't necessarily have to go with, like the gold coins and the whole dress and the labels and all the rest of it. You don't have to. You can do. In sometimes there is a magic to it, where if you was to dress to have the impression, so you may dress in a robe if you want to be a witch. That would help you to be more authentic in some ways to you, for you to drill up that person inside. But really, you shouldn't need the clothing to do it. And I always turn around, for me, I had people who say, well, maybe if I'm going through this transformation, maybe I should go off and live in the mountains somewhere, or I should go and have some time out and be away. I go, you know what? The strongest person, I believe, personally, if you can vibrate and get through something in the midst of darkness and deal with the shadows and still be authentic to yourself, you can stand anything. So I'm not saying you should go away and just learn to get your head together and then come back and deal with it, because it's always going to be here when you go. But it's like, take that time out. And I always say this to everybody I work with. Sometimes you do need to just step out from being you and just going somewhere and developing yourself, then coming back into your life. And now let's talk about this on a hero's journey, about you going away and coming back as somebody else, an improved you, not a different you, as an improved you, a knowledgeable you, because you've learned. And this where the mentor comes in. So if you need to go, and for me, if I'm learning a craft or I'm experiencing a craft, like for example numerology, I didn't go and live in the mountains somewhere or go off to the coast and then go and learn it. I still done my job. I still went to see the grandkids or the kids and so on, and went out. But I was still, within that time I was working or studying, I really immersed what these, the craft is about. And within what the craft rules and regulations is about, immerse it into me and then have my own interpretations of it. And I love what Brucey says is like, he never believed in one true martial arts, because he believes that martial arts is an expression of ourselves. And I believe that through spirituality, 100%, we are expressing ourselves through every work we do and who we see. There's a coaching or counseling saying that we get given the people we need to develop ourselves. This is why we find these individuals sometimes a challenge, or there's always growth in the work you do. It depends whether you stay or you run from it. So that was my short-ish video on the Grandmaster spiritual craft, and I feel it's so important. I just wanted to address this. And as I said, I'm just free flowed it. I've never put any prompts down for it. I just wanted to just be authentic. So I hope that helps. If you've got any comments, leave it below, and I'll see you on the next one. Remember, stay safe, stay strong, stay blessed. Love and light for the eternal flame. Namaste.